Hello there, I'm Mark Coxon, the AV Phenom, and welcome to the first episode of AV Phenomenon. Today we're going to dive into the Minority Report screen, but before we talk a little bit about if it's more science fact than science fiction, let's refresh our memories on how it worked. So, now that we've all had a refresher on what the Minority Report screen looks like, we need to identify exactly what we just saw. So, we're going to take a look at the components of the screen itself.
So what exactly did we see? First, there's a large piece of panoramic curved glass or acrylic. Second, there's some type of video screen technology applied over that to create pictures. Obviously, we need a video source to distribute those pictures to the screen, and then a dazzling user interface, which happens to be the trickiest part of the Minority Report screen. But let's start back at the beginning.
Now first, we have the Minority Report screen substrate itself. It's a very large panoramic screen. Looks like a rigid piece of material, maybe acrylic, maybe glass. It curves towards the user and actually curves in at the bottom as well. It's definitely something we have available today and something that you would usually see in like a simulation type environment. So check one, we can get the substrate. So now that we know that the substrate is readily available, we need to get video onto the screen, and there are a few different ways that we can do that. The first may be something called transparent LCD. Transparent LCD is a film that you apply that creates a picture over that clear substrate. The problem with transparent LCD is it does not bring its own light. You need a bright backlight behind a transparent LCD to get white. White pixels on this type of film are actually clear. So in the Minority Report situation, this would not work, as the wall behind is not white, nor is it well lit. The second option that we could explore would be something called transparent OLED. Now transparent OLED is a little different. Organic light emitting diodes on OLED actually emit light, which means white pixels are in fact white. This screen brings its own light. The problem is it also brings an enhanced black level. That's not what we see in the movie on the screen. We see transparency in the black. The other problem here is that OLED films are not large enough yet to do a panoramic screen of this size, which means you need multiple films in multiple places where the electronics connect. We would see those seams, and we don't see that in the movie. So we are to our friend projection. Front or rear projection would work on this screen rather well. Now you do need some type of projection film to focus the light at that screen point, but those are readily available as well, and we see them on windows and all sorts of things in digital signage today. The other piece that we see here is that it's panoramic. You would have 2 or 3 projectors that would potentially be creating this widescreen image. I err on the side of 3. Why? Because when you use 2 or 3 projectors, you're doing an edge blend. The main content in this screen is in the middle. You wouldn't want to blend your screen in the middle, you would have a seam. So it'd be better to have one projector projecting the middle and one on each side, where the seams fade into the thirds in between. It seems like in this case that projection is our best bet and probably the best way to do this Minority Report screen. Now that we know what kind of screen we're dealing with and what kind of screen technology, it's fairly easy to determine the video source. We need some type of screen server or PC with 3 outputs to feed the 3 projectors. We also need some type of blending engine in order to blend those 3 screens together, and some type of warping software in order to restore the aspect ratio. Remember, this screen is curved from left to right and from top to bottom. We don't want those images to distort. So a blending and warping software package is something that is essential to make this work correctly. Now comes the fun part, determining the user interface. It's actually the trickiest part of developing a Minority Report style screen. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there that claim they have the secret to how it works. However, they're using technologies that are either way too complicated or not quite right for the application. Let's explore a few of them so we can get to the right one. First, there's something called haptic. There is one video out there that I saw that they're actually using air sensors to detect movement in the air from somebody's hands and to control the screen that way. Way too complicated, very neat technology, but a little far-reaching. I haven't seen it used in a mass market application. I don't really think it's the right fit for what we're trying to do here. The second technology I've seen people use on YouTube to recreate this is touch. Well, touch is a great technology, don't get me wrong. I love seeing it everywhere. I used to work for a touch panel manufacturer. But here's the problem. When you have one user in the middle of a screen that may be 10, 12 feet long and curved, in order to use touch, Tom Cruise would have to be running from left to right, to left to right, to middle, to left to right, to get the content that he needs back to the center. It would be a mess. Touch is not a great technology for this type of application, so I'm going to exit out as well. The next technology I've seen is Kinect. Now Kinect is getting closer. Kinect, we're familiar with from Xbox, is a gesture control technology that uses an IR camera or a 3D camera to track hand movements. It uses reflected light off of fingertips to get things to move back and forth. One problem with Kinect though, Kinect has a hard time when there is different background light. It also has a hard time keeping a registered user when other people are running around in the background. Now in Minority Report, people are running all over the room to add little slides to bring in new content into the screen. This would definitely cause problems with the Kinect sensor. And it would be silly to see Tom Cruise waving every 5 seconds to re-register. Hello there, hi, how you doing? Hello there. Not a great technology for what we're doing here either. So, where do we go? Actually, you need to go back a step. We don't even need to go as far as Kinect. We need to look at something as simple as Nintendo Wii. Nintendo Wii works in a very simple way. The controller itself has an IR camera inside. The Wii bar has 2 infrared lights. As you move the controller, it tracks the lights and knows where you're pointing the controller. This is actually the best type of technology for something like a Minority Report screen. We would have an IR camera behind the screen that can see through the glass. And if you notice, Tom Cruise is wearing gloves. Those gloves have lights in 3 points, fingertip, fingertip, and thumb on each hand. That IR camera would now track those 6 points of light as he expands items, as he circles them, and as he moves them to the middle. If you watch the screen, you'll notice he wears the gloves. It's actually a very ingenious way to do it because it tracks one single user. There's no registration. Whoever's wearing the gloves has the keys to the castle, and that's exactly the way that Spielberg did it. So, IR, check.
Given all that, what do we really need? First off, we need a large piece of curved glass or acrylic, and then we need a projection film installed on top of that. We're going to light up that screen with 3 projectors and feed those projectors with a 3-output PC. We're going to send that through an edge blending and warping software to make sure that the aspect ratio is maintained, and we're going to use an IR-based user interface with an IR camera and gloves with IR lights.
The conclusion? Minority Report screen is definitely science fact, not science fiction. You can build it today in the exact same way that you see it being used in the movie. And in fact, you probably could have built it 7 to 10 years ago in that exact same way. Thanks for joining me for this episode of AV Phenomena. Join me next time as we explore more sci-fi and I unleash the secrets behind the AV in the movies. This is the knowledge, and it's just been dropped.
Hey there. Hello. Over here.